Hello everyone, my name's Stonsey Boy and welcome back to Reading with Stonsey. Today we'll be reading chapters 23 and 24 of Scythe, page 229 to 251. That G's kind of a little low. Alright, well, without further ado, let's begin. Chapter 23, The Virtual Rabbit Hole. Just from down the hall from Citra's room was a study. Like every other room in the residence, it has windows on multiple sides. But like everything else in Scythe's Curie's life, it was kept in perfect order. There was a computer interface there, which Citra used for her studies, because unlike Faraday, Scythe's Curie did not shun the digital when it came to learning. As a Scythe's apprentice, Citra had to access the databases and information that most people didn't. The back brain, it was called. All the raw data within the Thunderhead's memory was not organized for human consumption. Before her apprenticeship, when she did under a standard search for things, the Thunderhead did invariably intrude, saying something like, "I see you're searching for a gift. May I ask for whom? Perhaps I could help you find something appropriate." Sometimes she would let the Thunderhead help her. Other times she enjoyed searching alone. But since becoming a Scythe's apprentice, the Thunderhead had gone disturbingly mute, as if it were nothing more than just data. "You'll have to get used to that," Scythe Faraday had told her early on. "Scythe cannot speak to the Thunderhead, and it will not speak to us. But in time, you'll come to appreciate the silence and the self-reliance comes from its absence." Now more than ever, she could have used the Thunderhead's AI guidance as she browsed through the data files, because the worldwide public camera system seemed designed to thwart her efforts. Her attempts to track Scythe Faraday's movements on the day he died was proving harder than she thought. Video records in the back brain were not organized by camera, or even by location. It seemed the Thunderhead leaked them by concept. A moment of identical traffic patterns in completely different parts of the world were linked. Footage featuring people with similar strides were linked. One strand of associations led to the images of increasingly spectacular sunsets, all caught by street cams. The Thunderhead's digital memory, Citra came to realize, was structured on the biological brain. Every moment of video record was connected to 100 others by different Citra criteria, which meant that every connection Citra followed led to down a rabbit hole of virtual neurons. It was like trying to read someone's mind by dissecting their cerebral cortex. It was maddening. The Scythe Dumb, she knew, had created its own algorithm for searching the unsearchable contents of the back brain, but Citra couldn't ask Scythe Curie about making her suspicious. The woman had already proven that she would see through any lie Citra put forth, so best not to position where Citra would have to lie. The search began in the project, quickly evolved into a challenge, and now was an obsession. Citra would secretly spend an hour or two each day trying to find footage of Scythe Faraday's final movements, but to no avail. She wondered if, even in the silence, the Thunderhead was watching what she did. Oh my, you've been picking through my brain," it would say if it were loud, with a virtual wink. "Naughty, naughty." Then, after many weeks, Citra had an epiphany. If everything uploaded to the Thunderhead was stored in the back brain, then not just public records were there, but personal as well. She couldn't access other people's private records, but anything she uploaded would be available to her, which meant she could see the search of data of her own. There was no actual law that says I can't visit my family while I'm an apprentice. Citra brought it up in the middle of dinner one night, which neither warning or context of the conversation, but it was her intent to blindside Scythe Curie with it. She could tell it worked because of the length of time it took Scythe Curie to respond. She took 2 whole spoonfuls of soup before saying a thing. "It's our standard practice, and a wise one, if you ask me. It's cruel. Didn't you already attend the family wedding?" Citra wondered how Scythe Curie knew that, but wasn't about to let herself be derailed. "In a few months, I might die. I think I have a right to see my family. A few times more before then." Scythe Curie took 2 more spoonfuls of soup before saying, "I'd consider it." In the end, she agreed, as Citra knew she would. After all, Scythe Curie was a fair woman, and Citra had not lied. She did want to see her family. So the Scythe could not read deceit in Citra's face, because there was none. But of course, seeing her family wasn't Citra's only reason for going home. Everything on Citra's street looked the same, and as she and Scythe Curie strode down it. Yet everything was different. A faint sense of longing tugged at her, like she couldn't be sure what she would long for. All she knew was she was walking down her street and suddenly felt like she was walking in some foreign land where the people spoke a language she didn't know. They rode the elevator up to Citra's apartment with a pudgy woman with a pudgy-eared pug who was positively terrified. The woman, not the dog. The dog couldn't care less. Miss Yeltner, that was her name. Before Citra left home, Miss Yeltner was reset her lipid point to civet. But apparently the procedure was struggling against the gluttonous appetite because she was bulging in all the wrong places. "Hello, Miss Yeltner," Citra said, guilty to be enjoying the woman's thinly veiled terror. "Good to see you," she said, clearly not remembering Citra's name. "Wasn't there just a gleaning on the floor earlier this year? I didn't think it was allowed to hit the same building so soon." "It's allowed," Citra said, "but we're not here to glean today. Although," added Scythe, "anything's possible." When the elevator reached her floor, Miss Yeltner actually tripped over her dog in a hurry to get out. It was Sunday. Both of Citra's parents and her brother were home, waiting. The visit wasn't a surprise, but there was surprise on his father's face when she opened the door. "Hi, Dad," Citra said. He took her into his arms with a hug and felt warm, yet obligatory as well. "We've missed you, honey," said her mother, hugging her as well. Ben kept his distance and just stared at the Scythe. "We were expecting Scythe Faraday," her father said to the lavender-clad woman. "Long story," said Citra, "but I have a new mentor now." And then Ben blurted out, "You're Scythe Curie." "Ben," chided her mother, "don't be rude." "But you are, aren't you? I've seen the pictures. You're famous." The Scythe offered a modest grin. "Infamous is more accurate." Mr. Terra Nova gestured to the living room. "Please come in." But Scythe Curie never crossed the threshold. "I have business elsewhere," she said, "but I'll return for Citra at dusk." She nodded to Citra's parents, winked at Ben, then turned to leave. The moment the door was closed, both her parents seemed to fold just a bit, as if they had been holding their breath. "I can't believe you're taught by the Scythe Curie, the grandma of death." "Grande dame, not grandma." "I didn't even know that she still existed," said Citra's mom. "Don't all Scythes have to glean themselves eventually?" "We don't have to do anything," Citra said, a little surprised about how little her parents actually knew about how the Scythedom worked. Scythes only self-glean if they want to, or if they're murdered, thought Citra. Her room was the way she had left it, just cleaner. "If you're not ordained, or you can come home and it will be like you never left," her mother said. Citra didn't tell her that either way, she would not be coming home. If she achieved Scythehood, she would probably live with other junior Scythes. And if she didn't become an ordained Scythe, she would not live at all. Her parents didn't need to know that. "It's your day," her father said. "What would you like to do?" Citra rummaged through her desk drawer until she found a camera. "Let's go for a walk." The small talk was of the microscopic variety. Although it was good to be with her family, never had the barrier between them felt denser. There's so many things she wished she could talk about, but they would never understand, never be able to relate. She couldn't talk to her mother about the intricacies of killcraft. She couldn't commiserate with her father about the moment when a life left a person's eyes. Her brother was the only one who she felt remotely comfortable talking to. "I had a dream that you came to my school and gleaned all the jerks," he told her. "Really?" Citra said. "What color were my robes?" He hesitated. "Turquoise, I think." "Then I will be my color I'll choose." Ben beamed. "What will we call you once you're ordained?" her father said, treating it as if it were a certainty. Citra hadn't been considered the question. She never heard of a Scythe referred to as anything but than Patron Historic, or Your Honor. There were family members bound to that as well. She hadn't even chosen her patron yet. She dodged the question by saying, "You're my family, you can call me whatever you like," hoping that was true. They strolled around town, although she didn't tell them they passed the small home where she had lived with Rowan and Scythe Faraday. They passed the train station nearest to the home, and everywhere they went, Citra made a point to take a family picture, each from the angle very close to that of the nearest public camera. The day was emotionally exhausting. Citra wanted to stay longer, but yet a big part of her couldn't wait for Scythe Curie to arrive. She resolved not to feel guilty about it. She had no more than her fair share of guilt. "Guilt is the idiot cousin of remorse," Scythe Faraday had been fond of saying. Scythe Curie didn't ask Citra any questions about her visit on the way home, and Citra was content not to share. She did ask Scythe something, though. "Does anyone ever call you by your name?" "Other Scythes, one I'm friendly with." "You will call me Mary." "As in Mary Curie?" "My patron historic was a great woman. She coined the term radioactivity and was the first woman to win the Nobel Prize back when such things were awarded." "But what about your real name? The one you were born with?" Scythe Curie took her time in answering. Finally, she said, "There's no one in my life who knows me by that name." "What about your family? They must be still around. After all, they have immunity from gleaning as long as you're alive." She sighed. "Haven't been in touch with my family for more than 100 years. Citra wondered if that would happen to her. Do all Scythes live ties with everyone they had known? Everything they had been before they were chosen? Susan, Scythe Curie finally said. When I was a little girl, they called me Susan. Susie. Sue. It's a pleasure to meet you, Susan. Citra found it next to impossible to imagine Scythe Curie as a little girl. When they got home, Citra uploaded their pictures to the Thunderhead without worrying if the Scythe saw, because they were nothing unusual or suspicious about that. Everyone uploaded their photos. It would been suspicious if she hadn't. Then, later that night, when Citra was sure Scythe Curie was asleep, she went into the study, got online, and retrieved the pics, which was easy to do since they were tagged. Then she drove into the back brain, following the links that the Thunderhead had forged in her images, which was led to other pictures of her family, as well as other families that resembled hers in some way. Expected, but there were also links to the videos taken by street cams in the same locations. That's just what she was looking for. Once she created her own algorithm to sort out the irrelevant photos from the street cams, she had a full complement of surveillance videos. Of course, she was still left with millions of randomly assessed unordered files, but at least now they were all street cam records of Scythe Faraday's neighborhood. She uploaded an image of Scythe Faraday to see if she could isolate videos which he appeared, but she suspected nothing came back. The Thunderhead's hands-off policy when it came to Scythe meant the Scythe's images were not tagged in any way. Still, she had successfully narrowed the field from billions of records to millions. However, tracking Scythe Faraday's movements on the day he died was trying to find a needle in a field of haystacks that stretched to the horizon. Even so, she was determined to find what she was looking for, no matter how long it took. Gleanings should be iconic. They should be memorable. They should have a legendary power of the greatest battles of mortal age, passed down by word of mouth, becoming as immortal as we are. That is, after all, why we Scythes are here, to keep us connected to our past, tethered to mortality. Yet, most of us will live forever, but some of us, thanks to Scythedom, will not. For those who will be gleaned, we do not. Do we not, at very least, owe them a spectacular end? From the Gleaning Journal of H.S. Goddard. Chapter 24. An embarrassment to who and what we are. Numb. Rowan could feel himself growing numb, and while it might not have been a good thing for his beleaguered sanity, but it was not as good thing for his soul. Never lose your humanity, Scythe Faraday had told him, or you will be nothing more than a killing machine. He had used the word killing rather than gleaning. Rowan hadn't thought much of it at the time, but now he understood it. It stopped being gleaning the moment one became destined to act. Yet this great plane of numbness was not the worst place to be. Numbness was mere purgatory of gray. No, there was much worse place. Darkness, masquerading as enlightenment. It was a place of royal blue studded with diamonds that glistened like stars. No, 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 chided Scythe Goddard, as he watched Rowan practice bladecraft with a samurai sword and cotton-stuffed dummies. Have you learned nothing? Rowan was exasperated, but he kept it just beneath the simmer, counting to 10 in his head before turning to face the Scythe, who approached across the expanse of the estate's front lawn, now littered with flut and cottony remains. What did I do wrong? What did I do this time, Your Honor? To Rowan, the phrase "Your Honor" had become a profanity, and he couldn't help but spit it out like one. I cleanly decapitated 5 of them, eviscerated 3, and severed the aortas of the rest. If any of them had actually been alive, they'd been dead by now. I did just as you wanted. That's the problem, said the Scythe. It's not what I want, it's what you want. Where's your passion? You attack like a bot. Rowan sighed, sheathing his blade. Now would come a lecture, and more accurately an oration, because Scythe Goddard loved nothing more than performing to the gallery, even if it was just a gallery of one. Human beings are predatory by nature, he began. That nature may not have been bleached out of us by the sanitizing force of civilization, but it can never be taken from us completely. Embrace it, Rowan. Suckle its transformative breast. You may think gleaning is just an acquired taste, but it's not. The thrill of the hunt, the joy of the kill simmers in all of us. Bring it to the surface. Then you'll be the kind of Scythe this world needs. Rowan wanted to despise all of this, but there was something about honing one's skill, no matter the nature of that skill, that was rewarding. What he hated was the fact that he didn't hate it. Servants replaced the dummies with fresh effigies, scarrows with extremely short lifespans. When Goddard took the samurai blade from him and handed him a nasty-looking hunting knife instead, for a more intimate delivery of death. It's a Bowie knife, like Texan Scythes use, Goddard told him. Take great satisfaction and pleasure in this, Rowan, said Scythe Goddard, or you'll be nothing more than a killing machine. Each day was the same. A morning run with Scythe ran, weight rate training with Scythe Tromsky, a nutritionally precious breakfast prepared by a master chef, then would become killcraft administered by Scythe Goddard himself. Blades, bows, ballistics, or the use of his own body as a weapon of death. Never poisons unless they were in the tips of weapons. Gleaning is performed, not administered, Scythe Goddard told him. It's a willful action to slip into passivity and allow a poison to do all the work. It is an embarrassment to who and what we are. Goddard's pontifications were constant, and although Rowan often disagreed, he didn't argue or voice his dissent. In this way, Goddard's voice began to supplement his own internal moderator. It became the voice of judgment in his own head. Rowan didn't know why his would be so, yet Goddard was now aware in the head, passing judgment on everything he did. The afternoons would be filled with mental training with Scythe Volta, memory exercises and games to increase cognitive acuity. The smallest part of Rowan's day, just before dinner, was spent in book learning, but Rowan found that the mental training helped him retain the things he learned about the reputation of study. You will now know your history and biochemistry, and your toxin ad nauseam to impress the conclave, Goddard told Rowan, with a disgusted wave of his hand. I've always found it pointless, but one must impress the academics in the Scythedom as well as the pragmatist. Is that what you are? Rowan asked. A pragmatist? It was Volta who answered him. Scythe Goddard is a visionary. That puts him on a level above every other Scythe in mid-America, maybe even the world. Goddard didn't disagree, and when there were parties, they came upon the estate like seizures. Everything else stopped. They even took precedence over Rowan's training. He had no idea who organized them, or where the revelers came from, but they always came, along with food enough to feed armies. Every sort of decadence. Rowan didn't know if it was his imagination, but there seemed to be more Scythes and known celebrities frequenting Goddard's parties than when he first arrived. In 3 months, the change in Rowan's physique was obvious. He spent more time than he would want anyone to know studying the change in a tall mirror in his bedroom. There was a definition everywhere. His abs, his pecs, biceps stood inflated out of nowhere, and Scythe ran constantly slapped his glutes, threatening all sort of lewd with him once he was of age. He had finally gotten the hang of his journal, writing things that bordered on thoughtful, but it was still just a sham. He never wrote what truly felt, or he knew that his private journal was not private at all, and that Scythe Goddard read every last word, so he wrote only things that Goddard would want to read. Although Rowan did not forget his secret pledge to throw the scythe hood to Citra, there were moments when he willfully suppressed it in his mind, allowing himself to imagine what it would be like to ordered scythe. Would he be the type of Scythe Faraday was, or would he accept the teachings of Goddard? As much as Rowan tried to deny it, there was logic to Goddard's approach. After all, what creature in nature despised his own existence and felt shame as a means for survival? We became unnatural the moment we conquered death, Scythe Faraday would say. It couldn't be reason to seek that whatever nature we could find within ourselves. If he learned to enjoy gleaning, would it be such a tragedy? He kept these thoughts to himself, but Scythe Volta would read, if not the specifics, then the general nature of his thoughts. I know you were first brought on the apprentices for very different traits than the other one of Scythe Goddard admires, Volta told him, but he sees compassion and forbearance as weakness. But you have other traits that are beginning to awaken. You'll be a new order Scythe yet. Of all Goddard's junior Scythe, Volta was the most admirable and the one Rowan most related to. He imagined they might be friends once they were equals. Do you remember the pain when we beat you down? Volta asked one afternoon, and the end of a memory training. How could I ever forget? There are 3 reasons for it, Volta told him. The first is to connect you with your ancestors, reliving the pain and the fear of pain, because it's what led civilization and humanity's advancement beyond its own mortality. The second is a rite of passage. Something sorely missing in our passive world, but the third reason may be the most important. Being made to suffer pain-free, us to feel the joy of being human. To Rowan, it sounded like being more empty platitudes, but Volta wasn't like Goddard that way. He didn't actually speak loftily and meaningless ideas. I've felt plenty of joy in my life, without having been beaten to a pulp, Rowan told him. Volta nodded. You felt some, but that's just a shadow of what it can be. Without the threat of suffering, we can't experience true joy. The best we get is pleasantries. Rowan had no response to that, because it struck him as true. He had led a pleasant life. His biggest complaint was being marginalized. But didn't everyone feel marginalized? They lived in a world where nothing anyone did really mattered. Survival was guaranteed, income was guaranteed, food was plentiful, and comfort was given. The Thunderhead saw to everyone's needs. When you need nothing, what else can life be but pleasant? You'll get it eventually, Scythe Volta told him. Now that your pain nanites are dialed to 0, it's inevitable. Esme remained a mystery. Sometimes she came down to eat with him, sometimes she didn't. Sometimes Rowan would catch her reading in various places around the mansion, mortal age books about paper, but had apparently been collected by the owner before he surrendered it all to Scythe Goddard. She would always hide from him whenever it was she was reading, as if embarrassed by it. When you become a Scythe, are you going to say? She asked him. Maybe, he told her, and maybe not. Maybe I won't go be a Scythe. Maybe I'll just be nowhere. And she ignored him the last part of his answer. You should stay, she told him. The fact that a 9-year-old girl seemed to have a crush on him was more a complication Rowan didn't need. She seemed to get everything she wanted. So did that mean she got him if she wanted that too? My name's Esmeralda, but everyone calls me Esme, she told him when he followed him into a weight room one morning. Usually he'd be nicer to younger kids, but since he was told he had to be nice, he suddenly found out he didn't want to be. I know. Scythe Goddard told me. You really shouldn't be here. These weights can be dangerous. And you're not supposed to be here without Scythe Chomsky to spot you, she pointed out, then sat down on one of the bench press, showing no sign of leaving. If you like, we could play a game or something when you're done with your training. I really don't play games. Not even cards? Not even cards. But it has to be boring to be you. Yeah, well, it's not boring anymore. I'll teach you to play cards after dinner tomorrow, she announced. And since Esme got what she wanted, Rowan was there at an appointed time, whether he wanted to be there or not. Esme just must be kept happy, Scythe Volta reminded him after Rowan's card game with her. Why? Rowan asked. Goddard doesn't seem much to care about anyone who doesn't wear Scythe robes. Why does he care about her? Just be decent to her. I'm decent to everyone, Rowan pointed out. In case you haven't noticed, I'm a decent person, Volta laughed. Hold on to that for as long as you can, he said, as if doing so would be a very difficult thing. Then came the day Scythe Goddard threw a new wrinkle into the taut fabric of Rowan's life. It came without warning, as did all things Scythe Goddard threw at him. It was during Killcraft. Today, Rowan was working with 2 blades, daggers in each hand. 2 blades were difficult for him. He favored his right and had a little dexterity with his left. Scythe Goddard loved to make it difficult for Rowan in these training sessions and always judged him harshly when he didn't rise to some imaginary level of perfection. Yet Rowan had been surprising himself. He had been getting better at wielding weaponry, and had even drawn forth mild admissions of approval from Goddard. Adequate, Goddard would say, or that was an entirely dismal high praise from the man. And in spite of himself, Rowan felt a satisfaction each time Goddard gave him approval, and he had to admit he was beginning to like the wielding deadly weapons. It was like it had grown on him like any other sport. Skill for the sake of skill, and then a sense of accomplishment when he did it well. On this particular day, things took a severe turn. It was evident from the moment he stepped into the lawn that something was up. Because the dummies had not been put out, instead there was at least a dozen people milling about the lawn. He didn't get it at first. He should have known that something was different because of the junior Scythes were there today and was watching his training. Usually it was just Goddard. What's going on here, Rowan asked. I can't do my training with these people in the way. Tell them to clear out. Scythe ran and laughed at him. You're charmingly dense, she said. This ought to be fun, said Scythe Chomsky, folding his arms, ready to relish what was to come. Then Rowan finally understood. On the lawn, people weren't milling around. They were standing, evenly spaced. They weren't waiting for them. They were no more than dummies. Now, his practice would be the real thing. Killcraft would now truly be Killcraft. No, Rowan said, shaking his head. No, I can't do this. Oh, but you will, Scythe Goddard said calmly. But I'm not ordained yet. I can't glean. You won't be gleaning, Scythe Volta said, putting a comfort hand on Rowan's shoulder. There are ambudrones waiting for each of them. As soon as you're done with them, they'll be rushed to the nearest revival center and be as good as new in a day or two. But Rowan found that he had no visible argument except to say, This isn't right. Listen here, Scythe Goddard said, stamping forward. There are 13 people out in that lawn. Every single one of them is here by choice, and every single one of them is being well paid for the service provided. They all know why they're here. They know what their job is. They are more than happy to do it. They expect the same from you, so do your job. Rowan pulled out his blades and looked at him. Those blades would not be cutting into cotton today, but into flesh. Hearts and jugulars, Scythe Goddard told him. Dispatch your subjects with speed. You will be timed. Rowan wanted to protest, insist that he couldn't do it, but as much as his heart told him he couldn't, his mind knew the truth. Yes, he could. He had been training for precisely this. All he had to do was dial his conscience down to 0. He knew he was capable of that, and it terrified him. You are to take down 12 of them, Scythe Goddard told him, and leave the last one alive. Why leave the last? Because I said so. Come on, we don't have all day, grumbled Chomsky. Volta threw Chomsky a withering glare, then spoke to Rowan with more patience. It's just like jumping into a cold pool. The anticipation is much worse than the reality. Take a leap, and I promise it'll all be well. Rowan could believe. He could drop the blades, go into the house. He could prove himself to be a failure here and now, and perhaps not have to endure any more of this. But Volta believed in him, and so did Goddard. Even if he couldn't admit it aloud, for why Goddard set this challenge before him, if he didn't believe Rowan could rise up to it. Rowan took a deep breath, gripped his blades tightly in both hands, and with a guttural war cry that drowned the alarms blaring in his soul, he launched himself forward. There were men and there were women. The subjects represented different ages, ethnic mixes, and body types. From muscular to obese to gaunt, he yelled and screamed and gaunted at every thrust, slice, and twist. He was trained well, the blades sunk in the perfect precision. Once he began, he found he couldn't stop. Bodies fell. He was only on to the next, and the next. They couldn't fight back. They didn't run in fear. They just stood there and took it. They were no different from the dummies. He was covered in blood. It stung his eyes. The smell was thick in his nostrils. Finally, he came to the last one. It was a girl at his age. There he would look on her face of resignation bordering on sorrow. He wanted to end that sorrow. He wanted to complete what he had begun, but he overrode the brutal imperative of a hunter in him. He forced himself not to swing his blades. Do it, she whispered. Do it or I won't get paid. But he dropped his blades to the grass. 12 deadish, one left alive. He returned to the Scythe, and they all began to applaud. Well done, Scythe Goddard said, more pleased than Rowan, he had never seen him. Very well done. Ambu drones began to descend from above, grasping his victims, and spirited him away to the nearest revival center. And Rowan found himself smiling, something that had torn loose inside of him. He did not know whether it was a good thing or not. While part of him felt like falling to his knees and hoeing up breakfast, another part of him wanted to howl to the moon like a wolf. A year ago, if you had told me that I'd know how to wield more than 24 types of blades, that I would become an expert at firearms, and that I would know at least 10 ways to end a life with my bare hands, I would have laughed and suggested that you ought to get your brain chemistry tweaked. Amazing what can happen in just a few short months. Training under Scythe Goddard was different from any other Scythe Faraday. It's intense, physical, and I can't deny that I'm getting better at everything I do, if I am a weapon, if I am being sharpened against a grindstone every day. My second conclave is coming up in a few weeks. The first trial was nothing more than a simple question. I'm told it will be different this next time. There's no telling what the apprentices will be expected to do. One thing's for sure, there will be serious consequences for me if I don't perform the Goddard's liking. I have every confidence that I will. From the Journal of Rowan Damage, Scythe Apprentice. Wow. What a crazy turn of events, huh? Crazy turn of events, turned crazy story, turned, well, you know. Anywho, today we read pages 229 to 251 and chapters 23 to 24. Next time we will read, let's see, wrong page, first of all. This is the right page. Come on, load. Bloody thing doesn't like to load. Yep. All right. Next time we'll be reading pages 252 to 271. And let's see, that one there. Yep. Chapters 25 to 26, as well as pages 252 to 271. So next time looks like it's going to be what is that? 52 to 71. I think that's only 19 pages or 19 episodes. That's not too bad. What's also not too bad is it's time for today we're learning about the Border Terrier. A little guy. The pictures on the screen have no justice for the pictures in my hands. They're a little dopey and silly looking. Now, to start it off, the history of the Border Terrier is that it's perhaps the oldest of Britain's terriers. The Border Terriers originated around the Cheviot Hills, forming the border country between Scotland and England. The dog originated to chase dispatch the fox that were considered a nuisance to farmers. The smallest of the long-legged terriers, the Border Terrier, had to be fast enough to keep up with a horse, yet small enough to go in the fox once it had been in the ground, or a foxhole. The first evidence of these dogs date from the 18th century. Its progenitors are unknown, although it's probably related to the Dandy Dinmont. The breed was once known to be a Croquet Terrier, among other names. Ooh. But the name Border Terrier, taken from the Border Hunt, was adopted in 1870. By the time the breed had risen from its utilitarian roots, weird word, to take a value place alongside the foxhounds and the gentry's elegant foxhounds. The Border Hunt had a long association with these game yet amiable terriers, whose job it was to dispatch the fox. The first Border Terrier was shown in the 1870s. The breed was recognized by the AKC, the American Kennel Company, in 1930. Less flashy than many other terriers, the Border continued to be better appreciated by patrons of the hunt more than of the show ring. In recent years, it was experienced a rise of popularity and is fast becoming a fairly popular pet and successful show dog. Interesting. So, raised as a hunter still kind of is, but, it's kind of for show. How strange. But if I want one of these hunters in my home, what's the temperament? What does it do? Well, the temperament of the Border Terrier is that it's one of the few terriers bred to run in a pack. The Border is one of the most amiable, trackable of the group. It's indistinctive, busy, friendly, and biddable. It does like the hunt and can be independent. Ingredients that make for a dog that may tend to roam if given the chance. It's generally good with other dogs and cats, but it's not with the rodents. But it's very good with children. It makes a good companion for people of all ages. It digs, some bark, some are talented escape artists. Interesting. So a good hunter, a decent roamer, and pretty good escape artist. Watch out, people who own them. Now, what's the upkeep? How do I keep them in check? Well, the upkeep of the Border Terrier is that the Border likes activity. It needs either a good walk on a leash, a vigorous game session, or an off-lead expedition in a safe area every day. It can live outdoors in temperate climates. It does much better when it's allowed to divide its time between house and yard. Its harsh coat needs brushing weekly, plus stripping of dead hairs about 4 times yearly to maintain its clean outline. Clean outline, and yet it looks so dirty constantly. Now for the worst part of it, what's its health? How do we keep it up, and what's its concerns? Well, it luckily actually has no major concerns, the only minor concern being patellar luxation. It's occasionally seen with CHD and heart defects. It's adjusted dystrophy for hip and cardiac, which makes sense as it is small. And its lifespan is 12 to 15 years, which is pretty good for the terrier group if I have a good memory. Yeah, I mean, pretty good. But in an average home, what's its form? What's its function? What does it do? Well, the form and function of the Border Terrier is that it's a medium bone, slightly taller than long. Its long legs impart on the speed, agility, and endurance necessary to follow the horse all sorts of terrain, whereas its fairly narrow body allows it to squeeze through narrow passages in the pursuit of a fox. Its gait displays good length and stride. Its coat consists of a short, dense undercoat covered in a very wiry, straight, somewhat broken outer coat. It should conform to the body. Its hide is very thick and loose-fitting, affording a protection from the bites of its quarry, foxes. The Border is known for its distinctive outer head, and its alert expression matches its alert demeanor. I wouldn't call it an otter head. I would call it a pretty normal dog head, to be honest. Well, it's time for the final part, which is the weird little tier list they always have. It's at a glance. So 5 is the best, 4 is better, 3 is average, 2 is worse, and 1 is the worst. Now, let's get this done. Now, this is pretty easy here. So, the energy level, exercise requirements, playfulness, affection level, and friendliness towards dogs is all at a 3. So, pretty average for the dog. Friendliness towards other pets is out of 2, which makes sense with its fox-like, fox hunting age. Friendliness towards strangers is at a 3, which is good. Ease of training and watchdog ability are both at a 4, though protection ability is at a 1, so easy to train, difficult to attack. Grooming requirements, cold tolerance, and heat tolerance are all average at a nice 3, though grooming requirements is a little up there. The healthy weight of a male Border Terrier should be 13 to 15.5 pounds, and a female should be 11.5 to 14 pounds. Wonder why the females are a little bit, I was going to say weightless, but that's not the right word to use. I can't think of the word. Anyways. And the height is 10 to 11 inches, because if it was feet, we'd be living in a world of giants. Oh, wow, the next dog is pretty popular with a TikTok trend that's been going around as of late. And it is the one you'll be learning about in the next episode. So, I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. If people like, be efficient, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.